Hi, folks. So this Sunday on my show, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., that's every Sunday as well, I'm playing Hand in Glove because it's the 34th anniversary of the release of the first album, the Smiths album, which was called The Smiths. Last week was its anniversary, and I was speaking to somebody in the people in the week saying, just how important it was to them, really. And believe it or not, it was massively important to us as well, and me personally, because I remember when we were in the rehearsal rooms, anytime we were playing the track, or anytime we were playing that material, very early material, it sounded great, but we never kind of actually heard what the Smiths sounded like. We did a few little rehearsals and we taped those, but it was just in a tiny little rehearsal room. So when we recorded Hand in Glove, it was absolutely massive because it was the first time that we'd been able to hear what the Smiths sounded like. And also, it was an opportunity for Johnny to put an extra guitar on as well. So there's a little bit of layering with guitars. But when we kind of I was sitting there, I remember it like it was yesterday, I was sitting there and just listening to what the Smiths sounded like. And I remember listening back to it thinking, because later on that evening I saw my brother and he said, how's it going? It's been in the studio, how's it sound? I said, it sounds great. He said, what does it sound like? And I thought, I don't know. What do the Smiths sound like? Well, he was like, come on, you must tell me. Is it punky? Is it rocky? Is it funk? What is it? And I said, it's the Smiths. And that's about the only way I can describe it, really. I mean, how do you describe the Smiths? We covered a lot of bases, but it was a great song, and it was the most important song, because a lot of people ask me, what's your favourite song? It's very difficult because I've got loads of different favourites for loads of different reasons. But I suppose with it being the first song, it was that's why it was important to me. I remember getting hold of the sleeve because, well, in fact, I remember when we first had Hand in Glove, because that came first. I remember looking at the record and thinking, I'm on this. There's my name, Mike Joyce, the drums. And I thought, well, that's it. How fantastic is that? How cool is that? Because also, I think people tend to forget that. I remember we did our first interview, and it wasn't Morrissey. It was a guy called Stephen from Stretford. That's all I knew him as, really. And it was something that, obviously, we knew kind of where he was coming from, and we knew where his head was at, and we heard how great Johnny was, and could hear how great Andy was. But in terms of what he was going to bring to the table over the coming years, wasn't really that apparent because we hadn't done that much work together. But the first record is always the most important, I think, because it's just actually having it in your hand. I mean, obviously, a download now doesn't resonate as great as having a record in your hand. And I remember looking at the picture. I mean, I do mention on the show, if you listen to the show, there's a good little story that I talk about, that picture of Joe D'Alessandro on the cover of the album sleeve, because that doesn't show you the full picture. Well, I remember I was at a gig in Rafters, actually. My mate got in touch with me and he said he'd come to the gig. He came back afterwards and he looked like he'd seen a ghost. And I said, are you okay? And he was like, no, not really. I said, why? What happened? And he said, I've just seen you playing live then. And I said, oh, yeah, we're great, aren't we? And he said, it's a bit better than that, Mike. And I said, what do you mean it's better than that? He said, it was incredible. It was like going to see the Stones for the first time or seeing Iggy Pop for the first time. And I was like, really, that good? And he said, it was absolutely incredible, Mike. He said, I'm shaking. I can't believe what I've just seen. Well, of course, I saw it from a bit of a different perspective because I was in the band at the back, so I really couldn't see. That's one of my only regrets, really, is never seeing the Smiths live. But it was just to be part of it was massively important. But people come up to me now saying, hey, the Smiths meant so much to me and it was a massive part of my life. And I'm like, hello, what do you think it means to me? How important do you think it was to me, and important do you think it was to Mozza and Johnny and Andy? It was massively important for all of us. But it was, I think, once the first album was recorded, and then I just thought, well, it doesn't matter what happens now because we've got an album down, and then we just went on and on and on, and kind of, as far as I'm concerned, recording better and better music. So it's amazing now, just that one album, you think, well, that'll do. If it all falls apart now, I'll be happy with that. And we went on and did quite a lot more. But first album, always the most important.